My name is Charles Belcher. I'm also known as Abbas Abdul Rahman. I was born in Newark, New Jersey, in I guess what's called the inner city ghetto situations. Around the age of, I guess, 12, my family, my brother, my mother, and my stepdad, we moved to the suburbs of in Union County in New Jersey. So that was a big change, a lot of grass all of a sudden, and not just a park, but all over the place. So it was new housing. My uncle also moved next door to us, so the family kind of moved there. So we had most of our family still living in Newark. And there I had a budding athletic career. I was first team all-county basketball, and I was also the captain of the football team, co-captain. My teenage years were, I guess, pretty typical for American teenagers. We did most of the, went to New York City, which was close to us. We had a lot of entertainment, going to the Apollo Theater quite often. And on Sundays, we would always go to Sunday school and to the church. And so that was sort of my upbringing during my time in New Jersey. Yes, my family is basically from a Christian background, yeah. Well, no, there wasn't really that, it wasn't that much pressure on us, though we definitely were taught that going to Sunday school and attending, and that Sunday was a special day, and going to church was something that was looked upon as favorable. We went to Sunday school, but it wasn't really anything that was harshly put on us. It was pretty casual, but yeah, we go into Sunday school, not every Sunday, but we used to go quite often. More like a neighborhood thing. A lot of our friends would be there. I guess for us it was more, dressing up. We like to dress up, having nice suits and ties and things like that. And after church, we would all go to the sweet shops on the corner and talk about what happened Saturday night at the parties and things like that, and show off our fineries, and then we go home. Usually Sunday was also a great day for dinner, so I was quite fortunate. I had my grandmother cooking and my aunts cooking, so I could choose which Sunday dinner I wanted to go to, and just call my mom and say, "Oh, I'm eating at Grandma's tonight." So it was quite good, and Sunday was always a special day for us. Well, we didn't talk about it per se as a family, but I guess me personally, I always felt anytime there was any sort of any wrong that was done or any sort of unseen tragedies, I always had the feeling that, well, it's okay, God knows the truth about what's happening, and that was a consolation for me. It wasn't that much connected to the church or anything. It was just sort of an understanding that I had that there was a supreme being and that he was watching. So I always had that in mind, though a lot of times my actions may not have indicated that. Well, of course, going to Sunday school, that was the main topic, topic of the Bible. We heard some of the stories, and of course, Jesus was the main focus. The Trinity wasn't really a big thing. I used to go to the African Episcopalian Church or a Baptist church. So it was a lot more like singing and celebratory sort of stuff. I guess, and also in the tradition of the slaves, because we're descendants from our ancestors came from a slave population. So it was a time of rejoicing of the freedom that we had, and Sundays was a day of wearing our fineries and celebrating God and His prophets, but in a pretty casual kind of manner. I mean, we listened to the morals of the preachers and the pastors. They always gave us good lessons and things of that sort. So it was pretty. But it wasn't that intense. It was pretty casual, more social than anything, I think. I used to go to Sunday school. I really liked my Sunday school teacher. Well, of course, growing up in the greater New York area, we had exposure to Elijah Muhammad and you know, the Nation of Islam. So I was quite exposed to that. The bean pies during those times was like a new entity. And the fact that the brothers were strikingly different in their presentation, like they were clean, dressing every day of the week, not just Sunday. And they also had the drive for economics, like they were selling bean pies and different sorts of products. So they were definitely one of the few black entities that was trying to start businesses in the community and things like that. And there was a sense of unity about them that was impressive. I guess when I went to university in New Jersey, and I remember a particular time when the Black Student Union had 2 guest speakers. So it was 2 Muslim brothers came in garb, like robes, and they gave a lecture. And I remember watching them leave and thinking like, wow, these brothers really were on point, and what they were saying was like really great. But as they left, so did my, conviction to what they were saying. I just turned around and became the college student that I was, and back to the old business of being a college student and what all that entailed. Well, I think they basically just expanded on the exposure that the Nation of Islam had to the black community in the United States, which was making us aware of the names Allah and Muhammad and Islam. And also there was, of course, the movie Roots, where, Kunta Kinte, when he was in the bush and he was running and hiding and he was like trying to call to another slave and he said, Assalamu alaikum. So this was like, oh, what is he doing talking about Assalamu alaikum? So Alex Haley, we always wondered, why didn't Alex Haley embrace Islam after that? Because it was pretty apparent that some of the slave population was Muslim. I did some DNA stuff recently and found that both of my parents originated from Ghana. So that was kind of intriguing. And of course, there's Lawrence Hill, who wrote the Book of Negroes, and the star character there, the lady, she's from a tribe near Timbuktu, and she was also introduced to Islam and all that. So a lot of things kind of tied in eventually. Well, I guess I was in Toronto, and typical sort of pretty immersed in the West Indian community at that time. And there was a brother I knew. He was from Trinidad. He was a DJ, and we used to party a lot. And he embraced Islam. And then after about maybe a couple months, he came back to the house and he just confronted me and said, brother, you should be a Muslim. So I'm saying, what you talking about, man? Well, why you say that about me? What's going on? So he says, yeah, I know you. You should be a Muslim. So I said, man, get out of here. What are you talking about? So he says, okay, when you go to your grave, like, and they ask you the questions, what you going to say? So I said, well, I'm going to say, Jesus is my prophet, and, I believe in God. And what you mean what I'm going to say? Like, why you ask me these questions, man? So he was a good buddy of mine. I wasn't really annoyed, but I was sort of intrigued. So afterwards, when I reflected, I said, wow, these are pretty weak answers I'm giving. And my commitment to these answers is also rather weak. So that put me on a journey to study the various religions. So I studied all the religions for about 2 years. I even had Rastafarian dreadlocks for a while, all of that. Just trying to open my mind and my scope to, well, if this is really true, that when I die, I'm going to be held accountable for my religious beliefs and what I did and all these things, then I should at least investigate a little bit deeper and come to a stronger conclusion. So after about 2 to 3 years of kind of studying and delving into like all the different religions, I had some buddies I used to go and hang out with, they were Muslim guys, and they were also giving me like dawah and information and all that. So that information was clearly superior to all the other information I was getting, and it made way more sense. So I was gravitating towards Islam basically because of the research that I had done, and just that Islam made way more sense than all the rest of the religions and kind of rung true for me. No, even though, of course, people are always, your family members, people are always dying around us. No, I don't know if it was because we were young, but no, the topic of death I didn't really come across. It was the day that Khalid sort of asked me that question where it really hit me like, wow, yeah. I just thought it was just something that you just do and it's all over with. But then he brought up the concept, no, it's not over then. You're going to be asked questions. You're going to have to declare yourself. And so that put a different twist on the responsibility of not only living, but also when I die, I also have responsibilities to be accountable for my life. So that was kind of the first kind of great awakening about the concept of death being more than just something that you succumb to. Well, I studied Judaism, I studied the Trinity and Christianity, I studied Catholicism, the history of it, and the things that it entailed, Rastafarianism and the history of it and all that entailed, Buddhism, Confucianism. Yeah, I studied all of them, and in good depth too, and also Hinduism and yeah. Well, I guess it was in Toronto, and I think it was probably after I took Shahada. So I never had the Quran, I don't think, prior to that. I used to go visit some brothers, I think they had Quran available, but we were mostly reading hadiths and things of that nature, historical stuff. But I guess it was when I embraced Islam in Toronto, and the brothers presented me with a Quran that day. Yeah, I was like quite taken aback that it was very similar to the Bible, and that it was a lot of stories that I already knew about. I had already heard from my days at the Sunni schools and things like that. So it was quite familiar to me. Of course, Muhammad, peace be upon him, there wasn't much. I didn't know much about his life or his story. So that was really only the part that was new. All the rest of it was pretty familiar. Well, like I said, I was with these brothers. I used to go and visit them, Muslim guys, and one day they said, well, like, you coming around here a lot, like you learning a lot of stuff, like you should mom just be a Muslim. I said, oh, I don't know about that. Like, come on, guys. It's like, I'm just checking things out, right? And they said, well, do you believe in one God? I said, well, yeah, I always believed in one God. So they said, will you accept Muhammad as his last messenger? I said, well, yeah, sure, no, that's not a problem. So they said, well, that's it. That's what you need to do. So we went from Lansdowne, where the brothers had their apartment, or the house where they were living in, and we went to Bousted Avenue. And there was a Tabligh Jamaat in town that day. And it was led by a brother by the name of Colonel Mordeen. And apparently he was a famous Pakistani general, and he had a sword mark on his head, right? So he was quite a striking figure. And he gave me the Shahada. So I always remember that day. And they had a bookstore there, so the brothers gave me a few books along with the Quran that day. Yeah, I was with the Sunni Madhab for like 15, maybe 16, 17 years. A lot of Tabligh Jamaat brothers would come through, and we would sit and talk with them. And of course, we were doing a lot of studying. And I guess at one time, one of the brothers said, like, you brothers are like alims if you were in Pakistan or whatever. You brothers know the Quran, and you brothers know like these hadiths and Bukhari and all these things like really well. So, I think we were doing quite well. It was like it was a bit of a change, of course. We weren't hanging out on Saturday nights like we used to, or partying on Friday nights. We were going to Jummah, and we're having like like meetings where we discuss Quran and trying to learn how to read Arabic and just embracing the Islamic culture. But still, there was some of the West Indian culture there too, because culturally most of the brothers were West Indians. They used to refer to me as a saltwater Yankee, meaning that I was just talking like an American, but really I was a West Indian who had went to America, got the accent, and now I was in Canada trying to pretend I was an American. But yeah, things were going really well. Well, one of my best brothers, who had